Hey gang, welcome to Two Blokes from Down Under. I'm Simon Guthrie. I'm here with my co-host Ben Ennis. How are you, Benny?
Great, Simon, and you?
Very well, thank you, Ben. I'm looking forward to this one, mate. So, but first, I want to ask you a couple of questions, mate.
Shoot.
So,
what do you got?
most people listening to this are probably not aware of your background and you and your music background. Tell us a little bit about your music background.
I wouldn't say it's very extensive, but yeah, I did play a little bit back in the day when I was a teenager going into early 20s.
What'd you play?
Bass guitar.
Any good?
I could play.
Hold your own?
I was good enough to get in a band. How's that sound?
Well, you did. You were in the band with our next guest, actually. So let's get in a little bit of an intro and then get into it. So our next guest started his career as a teenager in Shepparton. He then moved to the Big Smoke to chase his dream as a singer-songwriter. Working with some of the big names in the industry to write and record his own original music, he soon racked up multiple albums and music videos to his name. He even cracked the top 10 on the iTunes country charts with his song Where Were You that was co-written with Troy Kemp. In 2012, he won Album of the Year at the Independent Country Music Australian Awards at Tamworth. He then went on to be a finalist in many years later in 2020 for Male Artist and Album of the Year. He's been interviewed by countless radio stations and even Tamworth Country Music TV. But now he's here with us in the studio for us to hear his story and maybe even sing us a song. Welcome to Two Blokes from Down Under. Adam Toms, how are you, mate?
Oh, fantastic. What an introduction. Thank you.
Hey.
Are we done? That's it.
Yep. That's it. Covered everything. You're out.
Well,
So, Adam, you and Ben know each other and go way back a long time.
we do. Yep.
I've only met you just now. So the hard question I'm going to ask you straight off the bat, mate.
Yep.
Are you glad you don't work with Ben anymore?
Am I glad I don't work with? No, I love working with him. I love working with Ben.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. No, Ben let me join his band actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You need to say that, Ben.
Yeah,
No,
that's
I didn't want to take anything away from Tomsy.
Oh, look at this go.
they were looking for a singer, and I don't know how it came about. I don't know whether it was an ad in the paper or something. I'm not sure.
Word of mouth or something, yeah.
So it was your band?
No, well, there was myself and a good friend of mine met another kid at school, way back in year 8, 9, and we were jamming at lunchtimes and doing all this stuff. But it just gets boring as batshit when it's just like three people playing together.
Yeah.
And we thought we'd get a bit more serious and we need to find a singer. And obviously people started talking to people, and then someone said, "Hey, you should get onto this guy Adam Toms and give him a go." And we teed up a practice one day where we used to jam, and Tomsy turned up in his old, I think he had the Chimera wagon back then.
Wagon. I think the thing is I had a PA and a car.
Yeah.
That's actually how I got in.
And he, so it was really weird because we're so young and we're not really trying you out, mate. If you can sing, you're in. And then he came in and belted out some tunes, and we just all looked at each other and went, wow.
So we put an ad in the paper and turned out...
No,
that's how Motley Crue started.
I think it was word of mouth, but same sort of thing. And then that was it. That was the beginning of the real band.
What was the first name of the band? It was that... Did we start off as Foreplay?
Yeah,
that
was the very first. We're gonna go through band names at some point,
Wow.
and you're gonna
Unbelievable.
you're gonna wish we didn't.
All right. Well, he soon left you for dead, mate. So.
Oh, mate, yeah. We had nothing.
All right, Adam. Let's start, mate. Where did it all begin for you? Where were you born?
Oh, I was born here in Shepparton. 1920. No, it was a long time ago, 40-something years. And so I grew up. We grew up in we were sort of south end of Shepparton, and then ended up moving over to the north end. So I went to secondary school at North Tech, it was called at the time. It later turned into North Shepparton Secondary College.
Yep.
But I went all the way through to year 11, where that was the first year of the VCE. So I'm showing my age here. So the school actually closed down at the end of my year 11. So I had two choices, and that was to get a job or go over to Shep High, where Ben Ennis was over there. And I didn't want to go over there and start again and finish year 12, and I sort of started to maybe let go of my academic aspirations in year 11 anyway. I somehow scraped through, but I did get a job. I started an apprenticeship at a place called Tattersall and Medsky, which was audio visual and hi-fi stuff.
I remember that.
Yeah, so Alan Tattersall, and he's still around today as an amazing electronic engineer. So did what I did there, and they used to call me, I think couple of the technicians, they used to call me Conan or something like that. So, because it was like I was like a barbarian with all the equipment, like I'd just break stuff. But I did learn some pretty good skills. I work well with soldering iron. I'm pretty mean with the soldering iron. So I still solder my own leads and bits and pieces today. Yeah.
Where did you go to primary school?
It was Boucher Street. Is that still? Yep.
So right next door to North Tech?
Yeah. So
you didn't venture far for...
No, I just like to keep things close-knit, so yeah.
Did you do any sport or anything at school?
Yeah, I did like your standard footy and cricket.
Yeah.
And I was always involved in things like the SRCs, and we used to have a thing back then called the Junior Council of Shepparton, and so we'd meet every month. There was it was 2 or 4 representatives from each secondary school would get together and go to the official Shepparton Council chambers.
Oh wow!
Yes, and I ended up becoming the junior mayor, and so I was the first and only junior mayor for North Tech.
Oh,
and I might have copped a bit.
I was going to say you copped a lot of shit for that, didn't you?
I did.
It's not really a North Tech sort of gig, that one.
No.
So
generally not.
I did. My brother, he's 6 years older than me, and he went to North Tech as well, and he was in the junior council, so he never got junior mayor. So it was the first and just about only time I've trumped him.
Beautiful.
But I did cop my fair share of a caning, but I was always really passionate about stuff like that, and trying to make a difference and trying to, change things or please people. I don't know. It's just one of those weird things that, for better or for worse, it's just one of those things that I've always had, and probably still do today in different ways.
Yeah, awesome. All right, when did the love of music start, mate? Like, have you always had? Like, everyone loves music. Like, music is probably the most universal thing there is in the world.
Yep.
But some people obviously have a huge passion for it. And when did that start for you?
I reckon probably. Well, my dad was a singer in a band. So
awesome.
Yeah, he was. It was back in the day, and I never saw him perform. It was I have to rely on word of mouth from his family and friends and all that sort of stuff. And over the years we'd belt out the odd song after 6 or 17 scotches or something like that, and have a bit of a crack at House of the Rising Sun and all that sort of thing. And he had a voice. He had a big sort of Tom Jones sort of voice.
Okay.
It was really big, sort of deep voice. And anyway, so and Mum, to this day still sings, loves singing. She was never in bands or anything like that, but Dad was, and his band was called Impulse. It was before the deodorant.
Impulse is a little bit better than Foreplay. Let me say.
You haven't heard the best yet.
Okay.
So Dad, I guess that was that old school music that I was introduced. It was things like Led Zeppelin. There was Creedence. The 50s and 60s stuff, and into the 70s, Deep Purple and all that, and coincidentally enough, that was the stuff that Ben and the other guys were playing. So it was just sort of made sense anyway. But as a 14, 15-year-old, sort of, when bands are it was sort of like I think it was the grunge era, really.
It was,
sort of Green Day and all that was starting to do their thing.
Yeah. And early 90s sort of.
Yeah, Silverchair sort of around that era. So it was very odd for anyone to be thinking about playing old school rock at that age.
Here's a bunch of 17, 18-year-olds in pubs playing Smoke on the Water, Yeah. But we were getting gigs because of it, because people didn't necessarily want to dance to all of that new stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't really start trying to sing until I was maybe 15, and I was pretty horrible. I look back at it and think, wow, gee, that's and that's what I say to people today. Even if you're starting out, you always start out bad. All these people who start out and they're virtuosos. I'm still working at it, So I look back at things, and I used to strum a bit of a guitar, but I always say, even today, I'm a singer before a guitarist.
Yep.
And I probably 16, 17 started to do a lot more bedroom singing and started to gain more confidence like that. But it wasn't until I hooked up with Ben and actually started rehearsing and getting serious about it. So
did you do it at school, or was it just an after school thing at home? And did Dad help you out?
Look, he'd always give feedback. When you're singing songs, like Led Zeppelin songs and that sort of thing as a child, it's it's always hard to replicate that sort of stuff. So he always gave honest feedback, and it's better than the feedback that
Ben used to give you.
No, you watch all those talent shows these days, don't you? You see all the people, and they're just horrible, and so obviously their parents are just saying, "Oh, you're awesome." No, they need to give real feedback as well.
Yeah.
But I did do a couple of gigs at school, and it was funny. We talked about copping a caning. So I'd be trying to be the singer, and I'd get bagged. I'm painting a bit of a picture that school wasn't the best for me, but I'd be out there trying to sing Johnny Be Good and everything, and everyone's going, "Oh, that drummer's awesome. Oh, Tomsy, you're gay." It was. I'd get called names.
It was a bit different back then,
yeah,
though. It was as soon as you stood out from not playing footy and cricket and sport and stuff like that. If you're into arts or anything, you didn't fit in that well.
Yeah. I remember back at, I went to Notre Dame, and I won't mention any names here, but there's two blokes who got up and they did La Bamba. And there was only one guy who actually knew the words and was confident enough to actually sing it. I thought he did a really good job. But the guitarist, and he still plays today, and he's unbelievable. He did such an amazing job. Everyone just disregarded the singing because he was so good. So I understand what you're saying.
And it's interesting because a few years later when we were playing in pubs, some of those people had come up. "Oh, Tomsy, you're awesome." I remember you. I remember you used to bag me. Go away.
Flip them. Can you play this? No.
So it's amazing how things turn around. But that's how I got into it.
That's how you got into it. All right. So we answered a newspaper ad for Metallica or Motley Crue with Ben Ennis, the main man.
Yeah.
Did you? Did he make you go through a stringent audition or?
First up, turn up. That was the first one.
Bring your own microphone.
Bring your own microphone and speakers and everything, and the rest was pretty much you're in.
It was that simple. I think the biggest bonus, like you said, was turning up with a PA. That was like.
These guys got it.
What if I didn't have the PA?
I've no idea. I was thinking that just then. I'm like, how would that have actually worked?
All right, so straight into rehearsing and jamming.
Yeah.
How long did it take you before you got a gig?
I don't reckon it was that long. I reckon we came up with about 40 songs pretty quick, didn't we?
We had nothing better to do with our time back then. So
we're what here? 16 years old.
7.
Well, you were still in school. Oh no, you were a mechanic. You're a mechanic.
I'd left school, but I wasn't 18 yet because I wasn't driving. Even when we started gigging at the pubs, I was still getting a lift.
Yeah.
And getting dropped off by someone, and then someone would have to take me home at 4 a.m. with me gig, like with me amp and guitar and stuff.
So
it was so awkward.
I was working as well, and the other boys were still at school. I think. So that was weekends. Was just all through the week. Was learn a bunch of songs, jam on the weekends, and smash them out.
We'd have to write a list. Get all the songs out to everyone. Back then it was on tape. Let me tell you that some dramas with that, sitting around trying to rewind backwards and forwards to find the parts and listen and look, because we learned everything by ear back then too. There was no, none of us read sheet music except for probably Mark. He was a freak. And then we'd turn up to band practice and one of us would be out of key because someone's tape player was slower than the others.
Slower. Kids don't know kids these days don't know the challenge of what we have.
And then we'd be all sitting there looking at each other like, what the fuck did you learn? Oh, how'd you do this? And then we'd be trying to fix it. And then, one of us has just learnt 5 new songs, and then you got to try and sit there and work out how to change it all. So anyway, it's a short story, but.
So your first gig.
Yeah.
Where was it?
I reckon, was it a Battle of the Bands?
I got a funny feeling it might have been. There was a few that we did. And then after, I reckon it was like a birthday party or something like that. Might have been sort of the entry point there. And then after that,
the Aussie, was it?
we went hard after that. Just
Yeah.
started booking pubs and then the Aussie.
Yeah.
The Aussie was like a little home.
It was.
Were you
We
nervous?
got quite a lot of gigs.
A lot
at
of
the Aussie.
regular work there, and
Yeah.
mate, we thought we were rock stars
That was
playing at the Aussie. I'll tell you.
Back in the day, and
Right.
people would, they'd go and they'd go because of the band,
Yeah.
and they'd listen and dance and
Oh.
clap and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. Things have changed a lot, but that was I think we played the GV a fair bit, and I think we did I think we did this pretty early on because we actually started. We did an EP, didn't we? We did.
Pretty close. Well, we had a drummer change.
Yeah.
So we started as just us as Foreplay. Then I think it was
We started with Foreplay.
we weren't far in.
Most people do, mate.
Yeah.
I reckon we'd only done a few gigs. I reckon. Then Matt left.
Yeah.
The drummer, and then we got Jace.
And so we had a name change, and because there was I think there was other bands, because there still are. There's bands called Foreplay everywhere. There used to be that string quartet called Foreplay, and they were quite famous. And anyway, so we did the change to Anxiety. That was the name. Yeah. So
I don't even know who came up with that one, but
yeah,
it did.
We went to Anxiety. We were all very anxious. Don't know why, but we went to that, and then we recorded an EP in Melbourne, big time.
That was a big move. We pretty much played a bunch of gigs and put all of our money together instead of taking money, and put it in. And we went down to Melbourne to, was it Studio 54 or something? I think it was called.
No, that's the name of the studio that all the
That's on Boogie Nights,
that's
bro.
it, Boogie Nights.
No, what was the name of the
Studio
joint?
52.
52. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, Dirk Diggler, eh?
Yeah.
Big like-
You idiot.
That's pretty funny. Is
yeah,
it, what
we
was it?
did.
Is that what it,
Studio
yeah.
52.
52.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's pretty close. I was 2 digits out. Anyway, that was pretty big.
And we did, and we got. I don't. Is it called? Well, it used to be called Sun FM, but is it Star FM now?
Yeah.
And they used to play us on the radio, and
Really?
well, like with interviews and all that sort of stuff, and
I knew nothing. I
Yeah.
knew none of this.
yeah, well,
It's my secret past life, mate.
Yeah.
It's about Tom's time, mate.
yeah. I remember we went to. We did. I can't remember what the gig was for, but we were like a headline band. That was at the Civic
I
Centre,
remember that now.
and there were kids. When I say kids, we were
The
19
Macca's
or
trip
whatever.
after that. Kids wanted us to sign CDs and stuff at Macca's, like we were
We were
famous.
big time in Shepparton. We were big time.
So funny.
So that lasted about 5 or 6 minutes.
Yep.
But no, we sold at least 300 CDs. I'm sure, man, probably gave away about 150 of those.
Yeah.
Where did the album go? Anywhere?
But I think I've got about 50 copies left somewhere. I don't know. As in, did it get sent anywhere?
No, did it?
Wasn't there rumours
No,
it got played overseas somewhere at
I
some point?
I believe it's true. I believe it went to number 1 in Istanbul North or something like that. I don't know. It's
Kakistan.
Yeah. So yeah,
And it was original music or just all
it was all
covers?
original.
Originals.
Yeah, yeah. And this was back in the day where there was no social media. It was all just word of mouth, and you would send CDs to whether it be radio stations, record labels, management. So we did it. We tried to do all that as well. Back in those days, there was a thing called the Australian Music Industry Bible, right?
Yeah.
And so it was this book full of contacts. And so we did what most people were doing and just sending out, crossing your fingers and hoping
Yeah.
for the best. But as we know these days, there's a little bit of everything involved. There's talent's one thing, but there's a little bit of luck. There's a little bit of all that sort of stuff. So I remember we were also was at the time, I think when Triple J started to do their Unearthed. And I think, I think we sort of sent in. It was the year that Killing Heidi won.
Tough competition.
So that was around that time that we were doing all that. So it's good fun, good, all part of the memories.
I was going to ask how old you were
I'm 40.
when you outgrew Ben.
We still
You
moved.
thought I'm too good for
No,
this shit.
I ended up moving to Melbourne with my wife. So I reckon I was
okay.
21. So it was probably 3 years of
We recorded
bands.
another album in there as well.
We did. Yeah.
We had another band change.
Yeah.
And back to a three-piece.
Yeah, Ben and I remained the backbone. Basically, it was like Lennon and McCartney.
Yeah. But going back to what Tomsy was saying before, when he said we were sending things out and trying, that wasn't a we, that was a Tomsy, and I say that in a good way, because that was the beginning of how he moved to where he did, as far as I'm concerned.
He had the drive.
Yeah, no, he did. And the business sense and you know, the gift of the gab and all the stuff that made those things work. He did all the bookings. He would talk all those, but none of us had any of that. We just knew how to play an instrument and keep it together. But Tomsy was the manager, you might as well say. He basically kept everything running, told us where we're going, what we're doing, and had the drive. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have gigged much at all, to be honest. We were all pretty lazy. We liked just playing in the back room on a weekend, but...
Need to have a conversation about my 15% cut from back in those days.
15% of the 300 CDs that he still has 50 of at home.
15% of nothing's still nothing, so you're pretty right.
All right, so you mentioned you moved to Melbourne.
Yep. Now, should we talk about the third band, though? I think we
let's
probably
talk
should.
about it.
Now,
We might as well, since
well, we
Ben's on
need to,
it,
but
so.
you need to ask Tomsy what the name was, because I'm staying out of it.
What was the name of the third band?
It was called Bald Man Chuck. That was the name of the third band. Yep.
Bald Man Chuck.
Bald Man Chuck. Yep. No, we don't need to talk about like how it came about or anything like that.
Okay, moving
How
on.
did it come about?
It doesn't matter. I think is this there a rating on this show? Is there?
Okay. We won't go there. All right.
Everyone Google it.
But
All
there
right,
was a little like a logo,
Yeah.
and what would you call it? Anyway, it was a cross between Mr. Sheen
Yeah.
and what was the other thing? You made it up.
Oh, I don't know. I just took directions and drew it. Anyway.
All right. So you've mentioned you moved to Melbourne. You met a girl.
Met a girl. She was actually, I met her here. So she was a Benalla girl. So that I would have been 21 when I met her. And
Did she come to one of your gigs?
Well, so there's a little bit of disagreement about how we actually met and why we met. So she had actually been to a couple of my gigs because I'd seen her, but she said she can't recall actually. So I clearly didn't make much of an impression.
Standout, so.
But she used to hang about with some friends that were friends of other bands and all that sort of stuff, and they used to come to the gigs, and we all sort of knew each other, all the bands in Shepparton, and we were all mates. So we'd sort of see each other around, and so people would just go to gigs. Anyway, at the time that we did actually officially meet up and everything, she would come to gigs after that. But it gets pretty old after, a bit repetitive and a bit boring, and she might come to a gig these days every now and then. But she's seen it all. So we moved to Melbourne, and for me it was about going to the Big Smoke and try to have a crack at this music industry thing. And, I think I said to everyone at the time, I'm not going to do covers anymore. I'm not going to do covers bands. And first thing I did was got into a covers band. So it was, because I went there with, I wasn't working, so it was my only sort of form of income. And Jo, my then girlfriend, now wife, she was able to get a job, really quickly. And so I was doing solo gigs at different places. We moved to Mornington first, where my dad used to live.
Yep.
And then, so I was doing some cover band stuff, solo gigs, and not doing anything to do with original music, apart from, making demos in the bedroom.
Still got to pay the bills. So.
Still got to pay the bills. So we ultimately moved from Mornington into Melbourne maybe a year or so after that.
So the move to Melbourne was with the aspirations to take my music to the next level.
Yeah, that was the, looking back at it now, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but, back in those days, you had to be in a capital city if you were going to get noticed.
For sure.
No one was going to notice the country, bumpkin, in Shepparton sort of, in cover bands.
Yeah.
Which, isn't necessarily true these days, and probably wasn't even true then, but that was the perception.
Yeah.
Go to the Big Smoke.
That's how all the big names started, obviously, like a Cold Chisel and that. They started playing in those pubs in Melbourne and all that sort of stuff, or wherever they were, and that's how it all made. So,
yep.
All right, so songwriting?
Yep.
So did you started that in the bedroom down in Melbourne, or did you write your own songs here as well.
Yeah, so the stuff that we did in with Anxiety and Bald Man Chuck. So Anxiety, they were all co-writes with Mark. But they also wouldn't have come about without the other band members anyway. So it's one thing to sort of formulate a song, but when you're writing for a band of people, everyone has their part to play.
Yeah.
And then when you're not in a band of people, you're writing, and so there's certain limitations, but then there's also certain areas where you can explore a bit more as well. So I was doing all sorts of different styles. I remember coming back to Shepparton like once a year or so, showing Ben. I'd put the CD in the car, have it listen to this, and it'd be hard rock to acoustic stuff to just weird ass stuff.
Yeah, I remember. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Which one am I supposed to be following here? But I understood where he was, just trying to explore.
Yeah.
But
so I started to do demos in the bedroom, and I started to do solo gigs at places like, say, the Hard Rock Cafe in Melbourne, where they embraced original music. I'd go and do what most musos have done, starting out, go and do open mic nights, go and put your name down at a pub and wait for an hour or three until your name gets called out to sing 2 or 3 songs. That's a pretty frustrating, tough slog, in the hope that somebody's going to clap for your songs, so, but at the same time, I was also working full time as well, because, it's that same old stories. You kind of need the job to pay for the music in a lot of ways, and there's been a few times in my life where I have been full-time muso, but most of the time I've always had some sort of a job behind me.
Okay. Yeah.
But I did get, start with a company called Bang & Olufsen in Melbourne, and it's a Danish audio-visual company, and really high-end stuff.
Yep.
And it sort of flowed on from, I guess my passion for that back here in Shepparton. I started off as a technician. But we're talking, me going from a technician in Shepparton to wearing, suit and tie, selling, at the time it was, $20,000 stereos, and that was
home entertainment systems.
That's when, and it was designer audio, so it was all about how it looked as well. So it's all the stuff that you'd see in all the movies and all that sort of stuff. So, but huge experience though, and I think there was a lot of people. So the first place I was working at was in Kew, and a lot of people who know the people in Kew, they're very, maybe
high
things
end.
have changed very, and so here I am, how you going, talking like the country bumpkin I was, but you can't. What did they say? You can't polish a turd. So I was what I was, but I think people liked that. Yeah. So I quickly became, within a couple of years, I became one of the highest salespeople. It was just again my sort of passion for the product, but just what has been sort of before was about relationships. And so ultimately, out of that, because of the work that I was doing, also we did a thing where we took the equipment, or did a whole expo, I suppose, over in Tasmania. The company didn't have any presence over there, so but there was customers over there. So so I arranged all that. So anyway, they used to have a thing called Achiever of the Year. So if you get that, you get to go over to Denmark, and so I got the opportunity to do that. So that was pretty awesome, to be able to do that and see where it's all made. But that was also, apart from that, was probably the first time. It was the first time out of the country for me. So that got to go to New Zealand. It was a really good experience. I was with them for about 3 or 4 years. Yeah. And so whilst actually, funny story. Because there would be different people. I remember Glen Wheatley, John Farnham's manager. Obviously, Glenn, he passed away not that long ago. But he actually, his wife came in, or somebody came in to buy him a present, and we picked it out. This is an embarrassing story. I don't even know why I'm even telling this now. Let's edit. Anyway, I remember.
You're too deep now.
Talk about trying to find opportunities, and it was a little bit of desperation. So anyway, I was the guy who actually sold the equipment. So I had to go and install it at his house. So it wasn't like one of those installs where it's in walls and stuff. It was just set it up on his nice.
Yeah.
So here I'm at his house having a conversation with Glen Wheatley, and it was at the time he was managing Delta Goodrem at the time, and she'd just announced a big. It was when she just announced about her illness with cancer, I think, at the time. Yep. So it was a lot going on for him, and but here I am. This happened to be. And by the way, here's a CD if you want to.
He stooped.
I remember about 6 weeks later getting a letter in the mail saying thanks for your submission, but Mr. Wheatley's not pretty much no, but yeah, I wasn't allowed to go there again after that.
Oh, well.
But,
at least you had a go.
Yeah, had a go.
Didn't get reported to the boss, did you?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. Probably. That's probably why I wasn't ever allowed to go back.
Yeah.
But no, you get different celebrities will come in every now and then. And there was a lady called Marianne Portier, and she was famous for being not necessarily the most pleasant person, but she'd married somebody. She'd married well, basically, and that person had passed away. And, she was... I was one of her favourite people to come to her house and set up the equipment and all that sort of stuff. So there was lots of those. So I had some good times, but yeah.
So when did you first get noticed in the Big Spike?
I don't think I ever did.
Surely you did.
No, it wasn't. Probably I suppose the turning point for me was when I started to narrow in on the direction that I was. Focus on a particular direction. So I somehow, I can't even remember how it happened, but I somehow got the opportunity to work with a producer called Doug Roberts. Now, Doug, at the time, he'd produced bands like the Bad Loves. He'd worked with like lots of bands like Boom Crash Opera and lots of different...
Chocolate Starfish, Paul Kelly, John Farnham, Mick Jagger, Chris Wilson.
He'd done lots.
Just a few.
Yeah.
Been around, this boy.
Yeah.
Yep. How did you meet him?
I honestly, I cannot remember. I just can't. It could have been somebody who knew somebody, or I can't remember. But it was a really good relationship that we had. He's a very calm guy. So I'd go to him with all these, I've got this idea and I want to do this, I want to do that. But he'd just listen to me and try to somehow... interpret what I was trying to say.
So he's a producer, engineer.
So he had his own studio.
Yeah.
And so he look, for very little money at the time, it's what I had. We started recording some stuff, and he had some contacts in the industry, and he would sort of send out, but not with any sort of. There was no false hope of anything. There was no promises of anything.
Yeah.
It was just him saying, righto. He aligned me with other people as well. He. After the first, I guess, bunch of songs, which were, you'd call it rock focused, I suppose.
Yeah.
I did an EP, and nothing really eventuated from that. It was a tool to try to market myself to the industry, I guess.
Yeah.
And nothing really eventuated from it. But looking back at it now, what really occurred was it opened up the doors to work with other people. So out of that, I would. The people that played on some of those recordings that never saw the light of day. I had, the drummer from the Bad Loves. I had the bass player from the Bad Loves. I had Bob Spencer, who played in Skyhooks for many years, played guitar. Those sort of opportunities don't come, or I felt at the time, they don't come easy. And so it was good to work with that calibre of musician.
Yeah.
And I learned so much from it. And then... So the biggest introduction was Doug introduced me to Peter Flynn, who was the guitarist and songwriter in Boom Crash Opera.
Yeah.
And so we started. Look, it was songwriting sessions, but it was really more about Peter just trying to help me find where I was going.
Yeah.
I'd spent that many years. In cover bands or trying to sound like other people. I remember, even to this day, people say, "Oh, gee, you sound like Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20," and that's because I was trying to.
Yeah,
that's what I was. And then so Peter was like, "Well, who's you? What
Yeah.
you got to try to find who you sound like. So he aligned me with a particular singing teacher at the time who was. It wasn't about how you sounded; it was about how you felt. What are you trying to portray and all that sort of stuff. And it was all a bit spiritual. It was a little sort of weird for me, but I followed through with it. And then so I started to pull back on a lot of stuff instead of really forcing things. And so I was trying to experiment with different styles again. So Peter and I wrote a bunch of songs, and from there it sort of then grew into, righto, we need to find a genre that to just market yourself in a genre. So
Before you go there,
yep.
How daunting is it to get into a studio with these guys that have played the calibre of music and bands that you've just said?
Yeah.
How daunting is that?
Yeah. Well, it initially it's daunting, but those guys, most of them are so down to earth, and they just get it. Like they've all been there.
Yeah.
They've all started off as
They welcome you in. And
yeah. They're getting paid as well, But no, I've been very lucky, and look through that journey as well. I've also some of the recordings, and I've also had local legend Nigel Parsons, from here. He came to Melbourne and helped out on some recordings. His brother, Anthony Sabali, the drummer, who's still drums in Smack, the cover band around town. So it was good to be able to. I still had connections and still involve different people, but working with people who had, I suppose, been on the big stage and done the tours, big and small. It was good. It was quite grounding for me and quite an eye opener at the same time.
Yeah. So how did you find your ticket? How did you find your
the genre,
your direction, your genre? How did you find that?
It wasn't deliberate. It was some of the songs that I was writing that were coming up with was going down sort of a rocky, bluesy, rootsy sort of vibe, and that was that's always a pretty. It's quite a wide genre in itself. It's still not quite specific, So, and look, the reality is, I started leaning in the country genre, and I've always said it was country rock, because I always had feedback from people that I was never country enough, and even when I tried country songs, and we can talk about this, I'm sure later, but Ben's been involved and stuff. Some stuff just, if you're trying to sound too country, well, then it's not genuine anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
So all of my stuff most of my stuff had a rock edge.
Yeah.
So some of it was this, singer-songwriter, acoustic guitar, and not a lot of production, and other stuff was this full-on with guitars and rocking out,
Yeah, okay.
So that was, I did an album called Holding My Breath, and some of that album, there's songs on there that came out of the stuff that I did with Doug Roberts and Peter Flynn, and so we were able to carry some of the stuff, not all of it, because some of it was, Peter Flynn wrote Onion Skin, from Boom Crush Opera, which is quite an out there sort of song. So he was helping me, I suppose, step out of my comfort zone. Yeah. And as a result, it's sort of, I'm happy with over there, but at the same time, I was more comfortable over this way.
Yeah.
And
okay.
so some of those songs were on Holding My Breath, and then from there I got on to a producer in Sydney. His name was Matt Fell, and Matt Fell, to this day, is one of the best known top producers in Australian country music, and so he's one of the go-to guys.
Yeah.
So I was able to, I guess, scrape up enough money to go to Sydney and record another bunch of songs, and I was, I had Lee Koenigen's touring drummer, and I had Matt Fell, who's a multi-instrumentalist himself. I had a guitarist who had played on so many other albums and done so many for the biggest names.
Yeah.
So and that was all part of that. Finishing off that album, did a few singles from that. So that was the first. I did a little EP before that, like a 4-track EP, where I actually aligned myself with an online distribution company. This is one of the you learn as you go sort of thing. And
I'm just thinking the McDonald's car park where you was handing out CDs when you were younger.
So I won't say the name, but I got lured, I suppose. Again, I can't remember how it came about, but and it's not to sound like a hard luck story, because I feel like everything that's happened to me has happened for a reason. So the deal was, if I put X amount of money towards an album and the package of what Adam Tom's is going to be, then this other company will put the same amount. Yeah. But ultimately, I still owe that company the same amount, that they were putting in. So if I put in 10 grand, they put in 10 grand, but I still owed them another 10 grand. So, but that was a company that was doing, so they created them a website which they said cost this much money, and they did all the album artwork and this and that and the other, and they said it cost this much money, and so that 10 grand got chewed up really, really quickly. Yeah. And as a result, those particular songs on that particular EP, they still, every time it gets spun somewhere or whatever, they still get their 0.5 of a cent or whatever it is.
Oh, really?
And that's just the way that the industry is. Yeah. And so haven't let it go. No, I have let it go.
You mentioned before you went to Sydney, you had to scrape up the money. What does it, I wouldn't have a clue, and most people probably don't. What does it cost to go from Melbourne to Sydney to produce an album?
There's different ways it can be done. Obviously, because there was, if you factor in the whole thing, so there's flights, the accommodation, paying other musicians. So the creation of the album, a lot of the times, isn't the most expensive part. It's having it and then saying, okay, now what do I do with it? I've got to do a film clip, or I've got to try to pay somebody to market this single to radio, or I've got to pay somebody to publicise the thing, or I've got to pay for an ad in a magazine and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So you could spend up to $20,000 recording an album, but you might need another 10 or 15 for everything else on top of that.
Okay.
And back then, film clips would cost anywhere from $2.5 to 10 grand, depending on who you used. Yeah. And there was no guarantee that they were going to get played on anything as well, So it was just one of those. A lot of people, with film clips and that sort of stuff, they'd call it marketing. Yeah. And it really was. It was an expense that you were able to say your tax man at the end of the year, this is marketing expense, because the raw, it used to be pretty not bad, I suppose. When my first couple of film clips that I did, every year, because Country Music Channel on Foxtel back then used to be a thing. I think it's called CMT now. Yeah. But it used to be an Australian-based representation, and so you'd send in your film clips, and they'd view it, and they'd decide whether they were going to give it, any rotation or high rotation. Yeah. So out of that, you would get royalties. You would get kickback from it. Okay. So the first few film clips that I did actually did better than as I progressed a bit more, I suppose, I used to call myself a crummer, right? So out of the big apple pie, there was the big massive names like your Lee Koenigans, your Troy Casadales, and all that sort of stuff. And then there was the crumbers, that you could live off it, you could do okay if you worked hard. But what happened was so many artists started to just come out of nowhere, and everyone was doing it. So there's so many crummers around, and to rise to the top, as I was talking about before, there's talent is one thing, but there's a bit of luck, and there's also that grit and determination. And I think over the years, I've always been quite honest with myself. I lose a little bit of that determination from time to time. Yeah. Because you can only take so many knockbacks.
Well, that's true too. So before we go, where did the country come from? Obviously, you mentioned that. Led Zeppelin and all that sort of stuff. Where did country come from? Who was your influence in country? And was it Australian influence or overseas?
Look, as I say, it was more that I had to start leaning towards stuff, and it was always the rockier side. So back then, I was listening to, the rockier stuff that, say, Brooks and Dunn would do. And
do you know who they are, Ben?
Yeah.
There was, Brad Paisley. I suppose the guitar-driven stuff. It would be, wrong of me not to mention Keith Urban, who was doing, huge things. He wasn't as massive back then as what he is now, but he was starting his big role. And, that was the sort of thing everyone wanted to be like Keith Urban. And people would say, oh, you sound like Keith Urban. And I go, well, I don't, because he was really good.
Yeah. I'm sure I read an article that said you sounded a bit like Keith Urban.
There you go. Did I write it?
It might have been on your website.
It's in his bio. He
might
wrote
have
it
been
himself.
in your bio.
But influences without a doubt. So I love his earlier rockier guitar driven stuff, and over the years he's done stuff that you just class as pop, and he's but at the end of the day he's a businessman as well. So he goes, what are the people going to buy? Or what are they going to stream and all that sort of thing. So he's done everything and deserves whatever has come his way. And, but that's lent into it. And the more I sort of was, I guess, investigating that rockier side. But I suppose it's always been a rocky, bluesy, grunty sort of a thing that I've liked the most and enjoyed playing with different festivals and stuff. Like I've been lucky enough back in the day to play festivals interstate and here in Victoria, and it was always, like everyone, you apply for a festival and you apply, I can play solo acoustic or I can play as a full band, and you cross your fingers, I really hope I get as a full band, because you've got to give your different prices and all that sort of stuff. So every time, if one came through and said, we'll put you on a solo acoustic, you're like, it's great to play at the festival. I would have loved to do a band gig. Because that's where I was able to show better or a better representation of the stuff that I was recording. But
so how old were you at this stage and sort of what year were we at?
Geez, I reckon that was around 2011-ish. 2010 probably, when Holding My Breath came out. And from that there was a few singles. There was a song that probably opened the doors. Like I did the first single ever released was called 6 Months of Loving You, and there's a film clip and everything. It was really nicely done. I knew nothing about the industry. I just put it out there and just sort of went, cross the fingers. But it was the next single called Sugar Lips, which was
Sugar Lips.
Sugar Lips, yeah. It was about my wife. And it was a fun, rocky, bluesy sort of song.
Yeah.
And we and it was shot in a church in Bendigo, the other side of Bendigo, and we had a lot of fun with it. But because it was a bit quirky, there it is. There we go. So
Jesus, mate, look at you there.
Yeah, I know.
So how old were you?
I was about 12.
For those listening, we've just brought it up on the big screen. But it's
no, I don't know.
So you're early 30s there.
Yeah.
Sugar Lips.
Sugar Lips. Yeah. So from there, there was I think one or two other singles. So and they were rockier singles. So I suppose I was trying to, stamp my sound out that I'm
oh, holy shit.
Jesus, look out.
Yeah, okay. Sugar Lips is on YouTube. It's at 136 views, man.
No, so that's the other one. There are
that's a different one.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I was able. So there's Vivo on YouTube, and then there's the stuff that was uploaded through my YouTube account. So there's probably 140 on my other one.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's that one sort of, as I say, did okay for me in charts, and there was a song called Break Another Man, which that was the last single I think from that album, but it was at a time where there was lots of droughts and fires, and Australia had just been smashed. So the film clip had footage. It was just me basically, and this was on my trip around Australia, which I'm sure we'll get to, but it was shot up in Queensland, and so the main guts of it was me with a guitar miming near somebody's sort of rural property, but we married in footage of and photos of floods and fires and that sort of stuff. Yeah, okay. So there was a bit of, the whole thing is, Mother Nature's trying to break another man. So it was a full rockabilly sort of vibe song, and that sort of was the first time I started to hit charts, I suppose, and was getting recognised. I'd played different gigs around, even if it's a small gig, and someone said, "I heard your song on the radio," and that's a kind of cool little sort of thing.
How exciting is that?
It's not bad. It's not bad. I said, "Are you sure it was me?"
Yeah. Hear yourself on the radio.
Yeah,
Oh, that's me.
Are you sure it wasn't Keith Urban? Because I do sound like
Yeah. So in 2012, then
Yep.
you sort of got a bit of recognition there. So 2012, you're the winner of the Independent Album of the Year Meet and Greet Awards in Tamworth. Is that right?
Yeah. So they'd there was a few different awards that would float around. So obviously the biggest one in country music was called the Golden Guitars.
Yep.
And I'd always tried to nominate and everything, but never got a look in on that. And there was you're against the biggest names.
Big names there.
But there was a few other organisations that had separate events, sometimes run a similar time at Tamworth or at Tamworth, or there was another one, Whittlesea Country Music Festival would do their national awards. They do Victorian and National Country Music Awards.
Yeah, okay.
And I remember going to that event when I first decided I'll do country music. And I went there as a guest and just watched it all and soaking it all in. And then a few years later, I was up there and I'd won Male Vocalist of the Year and for National in Victoria. And that was like huge. It was fantastic. I was like star. It was fantastic. Everyone was clapping and everything. And then a week later, I'm playing at a venue like an RSL or something in Sydney, and finish the gig and there's one person, sitting there. So the roller coaster just it never ceases to do what it does.
I suppose most people don't see that roller coaster. They only see the headliners for everything. They don't see the up and comers. And the up and comers that they do see always tend to make it as such.
Yeah.
So, but they don't see the, as you call, the crummers down the bottom sort of thing who are battling all the time to try and make it.
Yeah, and as I said before, it's an industry that if you look apart from the last couple of years, you can live off it but you've got to. You've got to be clever in how you market and the sort of gigs that you do. When I was doing what I was doing, there was massive names doing pub covers gigs on a Saturday night, But when they went to a festival, they were like the it band, or the it group or the it person. But we, as musos, we all knew what each other did. Yeah. I'd go and do a festival, and sometimes I'd drive and I'd do some pub gigs along the way.
Yeah, okay.
And pub gigs on the way back to pay for the petrol or whatever, So, but all I'd talk about is, it was great to play at this festival, and that still happens today, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah, okay.
So, so from in that 2012, that was off the back of a trip around Australia. So,
so a tour.
Yeah. So what happened was, we'd had Mitchell, our first boy. Had him a couple of years before that, and I was working at Allen's Music, which was Australia's biggest music instrument store. So
we're still in Melbourne.
They've actually.
No, were you still in Melbourne?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. So I'd been there about 4 or 5 years with Allen's, and I was, as it was people would say it's you're like a kid in a candy shop, but it was a lot of hard work. There was a lot of staff, and there was a big HR driven job.
Yeah.
So it was pretty stressful, but I learnt a lot from a business point of view. But at the end of the day, you're working for the people that own the company. So it got to a point where they'd merged with Billy Hyde's. Which was the competition.
Yep.
So Allen's Music and Billy Hyde's, the two biggest competitors in the industry, merged together. And so I was went through that process with them, and in the end, I just we were driving. My wife was pregnant with our second child, Riley, and we were driving down the highway somewhere, and this, I don't know what happened, this caravan passed us, this car and caravan. My wife goes, "Oh, it'd be good to do that one day." Within a week, our house was on the market. And I always joked about it. I think it was just hormones that was making us say it. But I kid you not, that was I'd given notice at work, and it was, I suppose I had almost like a golden handshake. They said, when you finish, come back. We'll make sure there's a job. And my wife gave she could go on maternity leave, so. We left in 2011. Mitch was 2.5 years old, and Riley was 6 weeks old when we jumped in a car and caravan.
And that was the start of the tour.
That was the start. Well, start of the holiday. So it was supposed to be a working holiday. And look, we planned to do it for 12 months minimum. We did only last 9. And I think if I had pushed it further than that, I wouldn't have a wife today.
Yeah,
So
okay.
she was a saint. And, she... look, I was just promoting myself. So I was doing gigs, drop into any town, ring the town that you're going to go to the next day, ring the radio stations, and try. And so it'd be things like, oh, hang on, can't get to the caravan park yet, love, but I've got a 6 a.m. interview. Can you stay in the caravan with the kids, and I'll just jump into the radio station. It was just, and that was 9 months. So yeah. So
you're promoting that first album.
Yeah.
And what was the album called?
That was Holding My Breath. Yeah.
What was your number one song?
On that album? I think the Break Another Man was the one. That was one where Sugar Lips and Break Another Man. Too Crazy for Love was another one.
What was your favourite?
I think the one that off that particular album that I always liked playing the most was probably Break Another Man. It's the one I actually sound like I'm on. I have a helium balloon before I do so.
Right. Well, let's do something a little bit different.
No, do it.
We're going to have a break, and we're going
Lips.
to let Adam sing a little bit of a song in regards to his number one hit off that album. So.
I think it was Sugar Lips. I'm pretty sure it was Sugar Lips. Yeah.
Whatever you want to play out of that album.
He's gonna work out which ones he remembers the words to.
Yeah, that's like 100 years ago now.
Lean behind you, grab a guitar.
In all seriousness, you're allowed to play whatever you want.
No, this is first album, mate.
This is the first album. Jeez, you're pushing it.
Well, I'll do a little bit of this next one. All right. So I haven't played this song for about 5 years, I reckon. So I'll just do a bit of this.
Do you want mine too?
No, I reckon you'll
all right, we'll see how it goes. He's got a big voice. You'll hear him. He's just got to get on the chair.
Can we hear it?
Yep, I can hear.
Yeah, I can hear. Yep.
All right, so doesn't go like that. I never wanted to have babies. I never wanted my own house. I never wanted to get married. Someone else. Oh, I'm so damn confused because of you. You know, you got those sugar lips. You got those sugar lips. You know the sweet to kiss. Sugar lips is on my mind. I never thought that I was lonely. I never thought that I was down. Now I'm thinking you're my only. You turn my world right upside down. And now I've changed my point of view because of you. Well, you wanna fix the fence, 'cause you wanna buy a dog. You want a diamond ring. Now I need a second job. Oh, you wanna plant a rose, you want a fast car. Without another wage, won't get too far. Oh, you keep taking all that I can give, but I like it. You know you got those sugar lips. You got those sugar lips. You know the sweet to kiss, The sugar lips is on my mind. Sugar lips is on my mind all the time. Sugar lips is on my mind.
Unbelievable. How good is that?
Nice.
I'll tell you what, I was a massive country music fan back when I was a bit younger. And I'd never heard that. But if I heard that, I would have listened to that all the time.
There you go.
That's
you
fantastic.
Can make that viewing 148.
I will. Don't worry. It will happen. It will happen. That's fantastic. So live in the studio, how good is that?
So that was always one that people, like, I suppose, fans of me, if they came to gigs, they always wanted to hear that. And I used to do like a great big intro to it, like holding a big note and everything. It was a bit of a wank fest, really. Can I say that? Sorry about that.
You can say whatever you want, mate.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. So, all right, well, let's continue. So
we're around Australia.
We're around Australia.
A couple of screaming kids in the car. Wife is probably not getting so.
I'm surprised she didn't shoot you.
If she had a gun, she probably would have. Yeah. And look, there were some good parts, and I can't remember them very well, but I'm sure there was. No, we actually, what made it even more hectic was I'd arranged for, I got sponsorship from, Maiten Guitars, and actually Alan's Music gave me some, equipment, and there was a company in Melbourne that had hooked me up with all of the gear for the car, the bull bar and the foot, and and all the equipment that I needed to help with the towing the van and all that sort of stuff. And so as a return, what I promised them, or not promised, what I intended to do and did do was film the trip. So we did we did a doco, basically. I call it the real reality doco, because there was no one telling us what to say or anything like that. And Bananas was you were actually at the very forefront of this. We did a thing where we did the actual, I suppose, the theme song. It's called "Are We There Yet?" And "Are We There Yet?" on the road with Adam Tom. So I remember, we were. I don't know, it's pretty crazy when you think about it, but, this is back in the day where, you see all the docos these days and they've got all the GoPros and stuff in their cameras. And well, I had an iPhone 4, so that was sitting in the car with that, at the end of a gig going, oh, it's a great gig. There was 4 people. And, I now got to get home and try not to hit a roo. And but we had some other good gear as well. And so it was, we were sort of on our own, not really knowing. And, the only reality docos that were sort of coming out, they were heavily produced and still are, as we know.
This is previous to your usual, like your Insta people that tour and everything, so you can't even see what someone else is doing.
Yeah. So did you give it to someone you knew who could mock it all up and make a little doco, like by the name of Bananas?
No, that was before Bananas was into all this stuff.
Onto that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had about 60.
I wasn't useful back then.
We had about 60 hours of footage, and I was able to condense it down to 6. And then I gave it to a person that had done some film clips for me at the time.
Yeah.
And we put it into about 60 minutes. So it was, and it was. Look, to be honest, I'm pretty proud of it because it's so real. Like,
you still got it?
Yeah. Because what I did was...
Is it on YouTube?
No. We packaged it with the album that I next released. So it was like the package deal. You get the album and the DVD.
Yeah.
But because it was so real and unscripted, there's some stuff you just can't write it. Like we got, there was one scene where Joe, I'm at the park with Mitch, my eldest at the time, so he was 2.5 or 3 or whatever age he was. Yeah. And my wife rings me, she's in tears. So I come on, this is a great opportunity, I'll get the camera going, not knowing what I'm going to... And she's crying because Riley, the youngest, had rolled off the couch of the caravan onto the floor and hit his head. So he was okay, but Joe was absolutely devastated by it,
Yeah.
And I'm going, so what happened?
From the outside the van, about 10 feet away.
One of the last things, a scene where we open up the caravan, the storage above, and a container falls out and falls on your kid's head. So again, creating more tears and all that sort of stuff. Well, let's get the camera out. So looking back at it, I know that would have put. I know that it did put way extra strain.
Yeah, it would have. Yeah.
And it's funny because there was one moment where we were able to. There was a person that I already knew in Sydney he was a part of a TV production company, so he had some experience with this sort of stuff, and it was almost pretty much the end of our time on the road. And so he sort of did actually sort of set us up and say, all right, let's just do the post interview. Let's just sort of had us together, then Joe separately and me separately. And I didn't know what she was saying, but and we included it in the doco, but it's her actually saying that there were times where she considered saying, we're done.
Yeah.
You know, so it got hectic, you know.
It would. A lot of pressure.
Yeah. And, look, you know, she, early on with, you know, second baby, was diagnosed with some postnatal depression as well. Yeah. And, you know, back then I didn't really know much about it, and I don't think she really knew much about it as well. But we just kept soldiering on. You know? So, again, hindsight's wonderful. We probably would have done things a whole lot different now. But
well, you would, but I mean, she's to do 9 months on a tour with 2 young kids.
Yeah.
And, you know, a 6-week-old when you first start out,
madness.
like, it's huge.
Yeah.
No support, no anything.
No.
It's just you guys and that's it. And you're trying to gig as much as you possibly can to bring some money in and make, you know, try and make that name for yourself. Oh, that's an unbelievable effort.
Yeah,
so.
And as a catch-22, because we didn't spend anywhere near as much money as what we thought we were going to.
Yeah.
You know, because there was times where pull into a caravan park and say, we need to be here for 5 nights or whatever. What if I did a gig for you and you give us the site? And they go, yeah, no worries. So, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And so that was all happening. So we weren't spending all the money that
the
we
crummers make a living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the crummers.
Caravan park gigs.
Yeah.
And also that was back in the day where people would buy CDs and other merchandise.
Oh,
you know?
so you try and sell your CDs and stuff like that. And
you get CDs done these days and it's like, hang on, can I stream that? You know?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, okay, so you come home from the big tour.
Yep.
I've got a couple of other awards here that 2012, National Male Vocalist, you might have said that before.
Yep.
Victoria Male, you said that.
Yep.
They're pretty big achievements.
They were, and it's funny because the organisation, the Whittlesea Country Music Festival, that was the last year that they actually ran those awards. So I'm the reigning champion. So no one's knocked me off.
It can't be taken away from you.
So that was, you know, they'd have this big awards night, and it was in conjunction with the festival, and you know, big names would play at the festival, and I remember going there for the first time a few years before, and they had Adam Brand there and all that sort of stuff, and you know, so it was to get up and accept an award as the winner. You know, and as I say, and then, you know, you're doing like heaps of radio interviews and all that sort of stuff, and I remember, you know, ABC Country is you know, a huge station for the country fans, so they listen to that religiously. And Saturday Night Country at the time was hosted by Felicity Urquhart, who's a brilliant artist in her own right. And here I am, you know, in this radio bus, you know, getting interviewed, you know, the ABC bus sort of thing, and it's like, this is surreal. But I had to get back because my wife and kids were still in the caravan because I was still on tour, you know.
Did you, at that stage, you've just won this huge award, did you think, I've made it here? Some of the big names before me have come and have kicked on, and did you think that? Did you think that, shit, I've made it?
There was a part of me that maybe hoped that, but I've always been a realist, and I was like, what's actually happening? You know, what's in place that determines that that's actually going to happen? So I had the drive, and I had all the I suppose that grunt that you needed to push through. And you know, from that, I released another album, and you know, that had some great little wins from that, because I started to co-write more with other people, and had some good I guess mini successes out of that. You know, I was on some compilation albums through ABC and all that sort of stuff because of particular songs that I've written with other people, and so it was all looking like things were starting to move onwards, but the reality was I was still one of the crummers, you know, I was back in, by that point I was back in Benalla. So after we finished our tour, so going from Shepparton to Melbourne, did the tour, did the trip, and we went, my wife's from Benalla and her folks were there, so let's just park up in Benalla for 6 months and we'll see how we go. And that was 2012. So I'm still there. But what I learnt was you do not need to be in the big smoke. You don't need, you know, for that particular industry. It's just about hard work and
Yeah.
travel. So I continued on doing traveling and, take off for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. And then so, well, hang on, that's not really fair on my wife. I wasn't necessarily coming home with all the riches.
Yeah.
I was coming home with a wage.
Yeah.
And I knew that, well, I could do that if I just had a job,
Yeah.
and still do music on my own terms. Because, look, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people who do it, and because of their tenacity, because of their persistence, they do rise to the top, and that is awesome. But at some point, I suppose I had to start growing up a little bit, but start making some decisions. And look, Ben's been a big part of many conversations over, over the years about where I'm at with things and, what I wanted to do versus my frustrations. But the last bunch of years for me musically has been more about just doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
And if I've released music, it's because I wanted
do
to.
it. Yeah.
And it related to me in certain ways, or it was going to impact other people in certain ways. And that's So that's that. So we got back. Mitch is in kindergarten, and Riley was in daycare at the time. And then I think I got onto a 6-month job with Carlton United Breweries, which isn't the worst job in the world.
No,
It was
that'd be nice. Good job.
It was a maternity leave contract, but so the person came back. So I drank more beer in that 6 months than I think I had in a 3 or 4 year period. But you had to taste it. You had to. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because in 2013, and I don't make light of you, of, how hard it is, because it is obviously hard. So in 2013, again, you had some awards and stuff that you made. 2013 finalist to the CMC New Australian Artist of the Year Awards. So you're a finalist in that. So look, if it was me, I'm thinking, hang on, this guy's going to make it. He's going to be there shortly. So
smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, it's it is hard. It's not and most people don't see that, and they don't understand how tough and how cutthroat it is.
Yeah.
So
no, without a doubt, when something like that comes up and you're a finalist in an award like that, and then that particular CMC used to always be called the. Or CMC used to do a festival every year, and you think, I'm going to be shoo-in on that festival. Nah. So it doesn't always work like that. The dominoes don't always fall into place. Yeah, you've got to create your own little sort of pathway. Yeah, and as I say, many do and do okay from it. But I sort of started to ask a few questions of myself and the future, and go, well, how happy am I when I'm doing music? And I'm happier when I don't do music as full on as what I used to do.
Yeah, okay.
So,
because I would have thought you made it, because in 2014 you did halftime entertainment in an NRL game in Sydney in front of 10,000 people. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, you made it.
that was surreal. And look,
I'll tell you why it's surreal, because there's 10,000 people at an NRL game. It doesn't normally happen. So
it was called their family and friends round or something like that. As a Victorian, I have no clues what was going on.
Okay.
So I suppose we should probably introduce the journey with our boys, because the reason why I was there was based on, my relationship with another organisation.
Okay.
So, it's funny. I said to Ben this afternoon, I actually asked my boys permission to talk about this. So, so both of our boys have autism.
Okay.
And so Mitch was diagnosed when he was about 4, maybe 5. So we'd done this trip around Australia with a 2.5-year-old who was growing into his autism, with two parents who just thought they were parents, not doing a great job at all. So it wasn't until we got back home that things started to amplify more, because he was aligning, or we had other kids to sort of compare to. And even still, it wasn't until the kinder sort of rang us up and said, you should come in for a meeting. And I remember sitting there on the little kindergarten chairs and tables, and just having a meeting with them, and they're saying, we've been noticing some things with Mitch. And I'm going, right. Well, he doesn't like, he doesn't like getting his hands dirty. I'm like, neither do I. He doesn't like sitting on the toilet if somebody's been on it before him. So, that's me too.
That's still me.
I think I should go through the process of diagnosis myself. But anyway, Yeah, so that kick-started that whole journey to get, and Mitch got diagnosed with autism, and so they'd call it high-functioning autism, which back in the day, this is only about 8 years ago now, they just sort of switched over from calling that form of autism, used to be called Asperger's. So from then on, they started to call it high-functioning autism.
Yeah.
So, and then Riley, he was diagnosed by 3. Because we'd already picked up a lot of signs. We'd already started the process. Yeah, so we had 2 boys, with autism, and, that comes with a lot of emotions from not only the boys, but the parents as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And, as a dad, there was a lot of questioning about myself. There's a lot of questioning, for the boys. A lot of soul searching, but at the end of the day, it's about them, not us. So everything from then on became, what's their journey from here on? And I used to, and I've said this many times. I don't care what happens. I don't care what they do. I don't care, about jobs and careers, and as long as I can have a beer with them when they're 18 at the pub, and and they can have a chat. So but with that comes a lot of steps. So there's occupational therapists, there's speech therapists, there's any kind of help that we could possibly get our hands onto.
Yeah.
So we became the autism parents that were just pushing through to give our boys the best head start that they could possibly get. And so far so good. If you fast forward to now, there's been a lot of tears, there's been a lot of tantrums. That's just the parents, So
just the parents.
Yeah, and so the boys, and we've been quite open with them about it. Our eldest Mitch, he'd come home from primary school and be asking questions, and why am I like this? Why do I get like this? Why do I get angry, or why can't I understand this, or whatever? So we'd have really open, honest conversations with him about it. And he's now in year 8, and he's doing great, and
that's unreal.
So a few years ago, we decided to start. I had a song on that particular album called Rich Man, but I had a song called Wouldn't Change a Thing. I Wouldn't Change a Thing, and it was about our boys. It was about the journey. I did a film clip, and the film clip was a lot of footage of our trip around Australia.
Yeah, okay.
We, I guess, whether it was by accident or not, I don't know. We just started. We wanted to start
some awareness.
So we started
this is
a
the
page.
young mayor coming out in you.
Yeah. What we knew was, we started a Facebook page, or a business, I suppose called WCAT. Wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, okay.
So it was all off the back of this song, and I somehow got onto an organisation in Melbourne, or they're national, but they're called Aspect, in Sydney, and it's this Autism Australia, and they're the largest organisation to do with autism services.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we did some stuff, and I said, I've got this song, I've got this sort of business, we're donating, 20% of what we make, to charity, and we wanted to give it to them and all that sort of stuff. And now it was the rag trade. We were selling T-shirts and hoodies and stuff. So 20% of your profits, as Ben would know, is a lot of money. So it wasn't a money-making experience, but it was the message behind it. And we'd have parents literally message us all the time saying thank you, because we'd get on as parents sometimes and do chats and
live chats and stuff.
And just talk about, here's our day, or he's saying this is what we've done, or this is what we do, or this is what we want to do.
Yeah.
And we'd done some fundraisers in our local town, and I'd gone and performed in Sydney a few times with this organisation, Aspect, and so it was great. So the long story long, I wrote a song. They came up with a new campaign a couple of years later called A Different Brilliant. And they'd asked me if I'd write a song. And so I wrote a song called A Different Kind of Brilliant.
Yeah.
Because they'd come up with their own T-shirts, and the slogan was A Different Kind of Brilliant. and the slogan is perfect because for somebody on the spectrum or anyone with a neurological disorder, so that is that your brain's wired a little bit differently to most people, is that a different kind of brilliant is it's just gold as far as that phrase goes, because everyone is brilliant, right, in their own
way, for sure.
So anyway, so I wrote that song, and we had through Aspect as well, Autism Spectrum Australia, they put the call out, and we had heaps of families send in pictures of their kids and families spending time with their kids, and that was all part of a film clip, and I think even to this day, if you call Aspect and get put on hold, that song gets played.
Yeah, okay.
But on hold. So anyway, they asked me to go to, as part of a launch of that campaign, they asked me to perform that song. They'd lined themselves with the NRL.
Yeah, okay.
And out of that particular night, a lot of the profits of the gate takings and that were going back to Aspect as well. So so it was just it was a huge thing to go there, and halftime entertainment. Look, it all happened pretty quick. Like it was, and it's pretty blurry. And I don't remember getting some photos with the cheerleaders later on, but that was that was nice. But yeah, that's how that came about. So
how proud are you as a parent that you can actually give back in that regard, like with your own talent, that you can give back in front of 10,000 people, and like for me that would be an unbelievable feeling that, hey, I'm doing this for my kids, but not just my kids, for every kid out there and every parent who needs some help. And I mean, that's an unbelievable achievement. That's brilliant. I think it's fantastic, and well done for doing that.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a look. Every autism family or autism parents, whether it's a husband or wife or single parent, it's a tough slog.
Yeah.
And I know that it has been a 100% team effort between my wife and I. We lean on each other, and there's times where if I'm having a bad day, she's there, or if she's having a bad day, I'm there. And every now and then we do pinch ourselves, because we look back at things a bunch of years ago were quite different in our family, and there was a lot of long days, and it's long days for the kids. At the end of the day, as parents we can whinge all we want, but it's the kids that are going through the stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's why we kept pushing with the the different services and the different opportunities, and the different sort of different conversations about them and others and differences and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So you got involved in another organisation, is that right? The Ricky Stewart Foundation?
Yeah. So Ricky Stewart, he's I think he is still the coach of the Canberra Raiders, NRL, and he has a daughter with autism.
Yeah. Okay.
And he started his own foundation a bunch of years ago, and massive. Like every year they do a massive charity, a big celebrity golf day that was also part of a massive dinner that night.
Yeah, okay.
So he'd have a lot of, particularly sporting celebrities, would come and be a part of the golf day, but also the charity event. And I, again, just making contact with people saying, your story is awesome, here's our story, and to have Ricky or his wife reply back and say, hey, this is awesome, can you come and perform for my guests at this private celebrity dinner that we do, the night before so I did that for 3 years in a row, so
that would have been daunting too. All those superstars there. Like, wow.
No, well, first of all, I'd try to get a list of people who were there, because I'm not massive, huge sports fan, but and a lot of them were NRL based, and so, but there was some pretty big names over the years. So at the end of the day, it's a gig, and you're the person. But you get to talk about your stories. And I remember my wife talking to Ricky Stewart's wife, and Ricky Stewart's wife said, "I don't really get to talk to other people that much who are going through similar stuff, And so it's that parent connection, So, and Ricky Stewart, he's huge in the NRL world, but a very humble man at the same time. And people in the media, when you see him, they see a different person. They see the footy coach,
for sure. Hard as
but he's a
nails.
dad.
Yeah.
You know, he's a dad with a daughter who's now, I think, 19 or 20.
Yeah, okay.
You know, with, you know, huge challenges. So they started a foundation where they raise a lot of money, and they actually open up houses in the Canberra area for people and families. It's like respite. So
okay.
So I'll take my kids there so the parents can have a night or two away somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a bigger level.
Yeah.
But much more money involved. But it was good to be involved. You know, for a few years with those guys as well.
Did you do originals there, singing?
I would every now and then. Yeah.
Or did you do mainly covers?
Mainly covers. At the end of the day, the people, all the celebrities always donated their time.
Yeah.
You know, again, totally another level where Ricky Stewart would bring up Qantas and say, "Can you donate the flights?" You know, for these people to get from there to there.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. So their time was all donated, and so it was for them. There were no other people involved. It was just the celebrities, and they would put on a special separate little dinner for them separate to the big gala dinner, which was the next night, sort of thing. So it was it's humbling, but at the same. There's a certain amount of people you sort of make an impact with, but the impact was because of our story, not
that's
the music.
right. Yeah,
the music was the opportunity in.
Yeah,
but it was never about me trying to. This is at the time where I'm not trying to be a star with music.
I'm just going to play my music when I want to play it.
I'm happy to sing songs for people. And I'm happy to share our story. So. But you know, like all things, things come to an end, and it was really a me thing. A few years ago, I pulled the pin on WCAT. Because as the boys were getting older, I always said that it's their story, it's their journey. So when they were younger and probably didn't have a say, it was almost a little bit of therapy for my wife and I to be able to go through and share our story with others. So as much as we were helping other people, we were also...
That's how you open the door.
Yeah. So anyway, I sort of, I suppose made the call that we were winding it up, and some people were annoyed, but they understood why we were doing it, because I always said if our boys get to a point where they want to be an advocate, then that's their choice.
That's right.
And now Mitch is like 13. And he's, when I told him today, I said to him, "How do you feel about if I got on and start talking about this?" He goes, he said, it doesn't worry me. He's just, and Riley, the youngest, said, "Well, it's nothing to be ashamed about." I said, "Whoa," and I'm nearly crying, and that's they get it, and Mitch, I've got a sneaking suspicion he will become one of these people that speaks about it without any care at all about what people will say. Because it's, I suppose I've always got in the back of my mind what I went through as a kid at school. My fair share of getting picked on for doing things I was passionate about. So Mitch he's one of those kids he can get pretty passionate about stuff. So if he chooses to go down this road with his choice, I'm always conscious that there might be that person or people. But then again, we're in a different world, and it's a different time, and people are more accepting.
Yeah, that's right. How old's Riley, did you say?
10. Yeah, he turns 11 on Anzac Day.
It's pretty impressive for a 10-year-old to come out and say, "Well, I'm not ashamed of it, Dad.
Yeah.
This is who I am."
Yeah.
So, like that's impressive, and it's I suppose a lot of that comes back to you and the wife, and how you brought them up and stuff, and I'll be pretty proud of that. So it's a pretty good effort. So
we'd give ourselves a pat on the back every now and then.
They're good value. I can vouch for that.
Yeah,
absolute champions.
Yeah, well, that's great. Yeah. So it's so you sort of backed off the whole foundation-y sort of thing, and sort of put some more time into the family themselves, and just focused your energy into that.
Yeah, I did. I got an opportunity 2015. My sister-in-law was a teacher and still is at one of the secondary schools in Benalla.
Yeah.
At FCJ, and she asked me one day. She goes, "Oh, we need a chaplain," and I've gone, "Oh, gee, I haven't actually ever read the Bible, let alone being Catholic and all that sort of stuff." She goes, "No," because at that time they used to run the National Chaplaincy Program. So they in state schools or public schools, the chaplains that they put in had to come from a particular diocese, so a Catholic diocese, and they had to have a religious background. Whereas in Catholic schools, they could put on a youth worker and somebody who just relates with kids.
Yeah.
and because they teach RE, they have teachers for all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So they said, no, all you've got to do is, do some training, whether it be a certificate or whatever. And I chose, I went, all right, well, I'll go and have a chat. And I'd never done anything like that before. So I've come from, working normal jobs with adults to being a muso to working at a beer place and being a muso again. And then all of a sudden I've got to relate with teenagers, but I guess all this thing, and I don't know, my family always said I'm just a big kid at the end of the day, So I took on a diploma of youth worker. So as an old fella taking that on, it's
back to school.
So they say it takes about it would be 2 years if you're sort of part time. 3 years part time. And so anyway, I was lucky to be able to be working whilst also studying. So I didn't have to have the diploma first. I just had to have been showing that I'm doing it. So I finished it off, in about 18 months. So smash that through.
Wow.
But I guess a lot of it is life experience as well. So relating to young people, it's my main job is listening, and then every now and then I add a 2 bobs worth in if they want it. And I can talk a bit. So that's 2015. I'm still there. So, so it's been the job that I've had the longest in my whole life. Before that, it was I'd do a 3 or 4 year turnaround.
How did you go with COVID?
So it was challenging.
Because like a lot of schools aren't at school, and there's still problems are still there and stuff. So.
So we do. I was still able to go in, because there would still be a certain amount of students that were allowed to go to school for various different reasons. So whether their parents were essential workers or whether they had their own special needs or whatever it may be. So I was still able to remain active there. And I also, over the last couple of years, took on another role at the school. I became called vet music industry. So I took on, did some more study to be the teacher of a TAFE course. Or I would say not teacher, but trainer. So I've been doing, this is my 3rd or 4th year now. So that's kept me busy. So I was doing that predominantly when we're in lockdowns, that was online. And it's always small classes. It's one of those things, the music industry's changed so much. And I guess young people have changed so much that, we've got a course that's designed around the music industry. I've got to tell you, trying to teach that course over the last 2 years in an industry that just went,
stopped.
So it was, more about, okay, this is how, so it's not about writing songs and becoming a star. It's about, this is how you get work. This is what you need to do to have a wage or to have some sort of income.
More business.
So it has been a challenge without a doubt. But so the school asked me, and I'm not really sure about that, and so it's only always a small amount of students. But other than that, there was like video chats and things like that, and lots of emailing back and forth. But it has been interesting. But this year, back full swing. And it's been the longest that we've all been at a school for a long time. So everyone's cooked already.
I see that. My kids are in year 8. And, they're getting to a point like they've been back to school for 8 weeks, and so what the hell is this sort of thing? So
everyone's buggered.
Everyone's knackered already, sort of thing. So
do you remember back like 2015 when you first started as what we'll call the chaplain? Chappy.
Charlie.
Do you remember the first kid that walked in that nearly knocked you off your chair with a story? You don't have to tell a story because you probably can't. But
no, well, the first person was his brother just passed away. So now I started a few months after my father had just passed away. So one of my first comments, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm crying with the kid. You're just talking about it, like about loss. And I had done 5 minutes of training at that particular time, so I was just trying to relate to somebody,
so you got thrown in the deep end hard.
And then and not long after that, there was another person, probably 6 months later, where he'd lost his father, and it was an instant I could relate instantly, but I think you know, I'm pretty real, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, there's times where you know I'm finding myself holding back tears, and hang on, just it's okay to cry,
Yeah,
you know.
sure, yeah.
So I'll do that. I'll have a cry, a laugh, and whatever, you know. So and I think that you know, teenagers can see. You know, they can see through fakeness at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I always, you know, sometimes depending on what I deal with, because I'll deal with anyone who's, they might be, I always say it's for so many different reasons. So I'll go and grab somebody for a chat. Now, it's either because they've asked me for one, or their parents have asked me for one, or teachers might have said, can you have a chat?
Yeah.
Or they just might have been awesome. So
Yeah.
I'll have a chat and talk to them about how awesome they're being. You know?
Okay.
But, you know, sometimes, you know, it can get a bit of a thing where it's because somebody's sad or somebody's been naughty or for whatever reason. You know, so sometimes I'm, oh, what have I done this time? And I always go, it's not me that gets you in trouble. It's you that gets you in trouble. Let's talk about that, you know. So, yeah, I guess I'm the good guy, because especially if they've been in trouble and it's already that the discipline's usually always been done.
Yeah.
I'm not the one that
It's not
hands
your job.
out. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So I'll just talk about what's going on, you know, and it could be brain farts that people have had. And it's not because it's necessarily something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's the times where it's full on for them, and you know, so you just got to try to find a little bit of something to be able to relate to or relate with them. But at the same time, some kids like it when you just try to take their mind off stuff too. You know, so I'll go shoot hoops. You know, anyone who's musical, I say, here, grab a guitar. You know, or what music do you like? You know, that sort of stuff. If you know it's just somebody who you just want to they just need their mind taken off from stuff. They're just in a funk. You know.
Yeah.
So I'm always a big believer about talking about stuff, but there's a time and a place sometimes too. So
Yeah.
But one of the other things I do at the school is I did some training. I became a trainer for teen mental health first aid. So it's an accreditation that lets me train year 8s and year 11s at our school, or any school really. And it's a first aid course around mental health. So you know, it's three 90-minute sessions, and it's basically just talking about anything to do with mental health. Year 8s, it's an introduction, but it can get pretty heavy.
Yeah.
And then year 11, it's a similar course, but a bit heavier again. But it's such an important program, and so I've been doing that for this will be the 5th year now. It's good. Yeah,
it is a big thing, mental health nowadays, and the more recognition we can get about it, and people like yourself who can help out in that regards. Are you the only chaplain at the school?
So no longer a chaplain.
I couldn't remember what the title was.
No, so I've always called myself a youth worker because, you know, look.
Okay, are you the only youth worker there?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's, so we've got about, well, when I started, there was about 350 students. There's probably about 390 now. So we've had, so me as the youth worker, from time to time we have a psychologist that might spend a day a week, you know, at different times, if we can find one, and you know, because it's pretty hard to get, you know, consistency with that sort of thing, because everyone in the mental health field is just under the pump. Yeah, you know, more and more these days we're finding people say, "Oh, I'm doing online therapy." You know, they're speaking to somebody behind a computer screen. You know, that works for some kids, but they're sort of a bit conflicting because they don't get that human connection either.
That's right. Yeah.
So they like it because they don't have to be in the room with a human, but at the same time they're not getting that connection. So it can be a little bit conflicting. But I always say to them, look, I'm not a counsellor, I'm not your therapist, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm here to have a listen, and I'm here to, you know, lend a bit of advice, or I can actually hook you up. I can, you know, through resources, or even just as that middle person, just to get them to accept that they need some help. You know, sometimes they just need a little nudge.
It's the most important part.
Yeah, well, if you say to somebody, you're going to go to counselling, and they go kicking and screaming, they're not going to. They might go, but they're not going to do it. They're not going to try to benefit themselves. So it's helping them understand. Well, this is why. Yeah. And these are some of the things, and you know, sometimes I'll just go, you know, have you spoken to anyone about it? And then they go, no, and I'll say, well, how's that going for you? So
it's always good to talk to people, and that's, I suppose, the stigma around that is most people, like years ago, it used to be you don't talk to anyone because that means you're weak, sort of thing. So people like yourself are trying to change that, and
Yep.
and that's a brilliant thing. So because they do need to talk, and the hard thing is they've got to be able to talk, and they've got to know it's okay to talk as
Yep.
well. So it's
Yeah.
okay not to be okay, sort
That's
of thing.
it.
So
That's
it's
it.
it's an awesome thing you're doing there. So
I love
that's
it.
pretty good.
I
So
do love it. I mean, it has its big, every now and then I'll talk to this guy and they'll be like, oh, it's just a massive week, whatever. But
You'll tell me things that's going on during the week, and I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
I can't even handle hearing it second or third hand sometimes, let alone being there.
But at this stage in my life, I can't see myself doing anything different.
No,
If the school said, happy to have you keep working for the next 10 years, I'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
But I always go, how old can a youth work actually be?
Young at heart, and,
Young at
and
heart.
the
Still a
good thing
kid.
is there's that consistency though, like you said, with other avenues at the moment. They're hit and miss, where you'll pretty much already been there long enough to see kids start from year 7 and leave nearly year 12.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing for the school. So I don't think they'll be changing that anytime soon.
No, very good. It's a fantastic thing you're doing, and I applaud you for it. Well done, mate.
Thank you so much.
We'll go back on music just for a sec. 2017, you brought out a single, Where You Were. What is it?
Where were you?
Where Were You? I can't read properly, so.
Where were you when? Was the actual single? I think it was.
Oh, it does say, Where Were
There
You
is
When?
I did it silly, didn't I? I did. The single was Where Were You When?
Yeah.
And then the album that I did that followed that was called Where Were You?
He just wanted to confuse himself.
Yeah, it confused me, so I don't
But you
feel
had
so bad
a bit
now.
of a break there, though.
I did.
That's more in line with the job, the kids, just that whole, like you said, settle down, get family back under control, sort of business.
And I decided, I'll have another crack. I'll just step back into
got
it.
itchy, didn't you?
I did.
I think we spoke about it.
Yeah. And so I did write a song with another artist called Troy Kemp, and he was in at the time, it was a massive duo called McAllister Kemp, and great songwriters, and he's actually now in Nashville, trying to do what many people do is go over, and he's taken his wife over, and they're just starting. So, but he and I wrote a song, and it's funny, he doesn't mind me talking about this. So we wrote a song. I think that day or whatever, we'd written a full-on party anthem sort of song, drinking beer or whatever, and as a lot of country songs are. And so that night we were just having a chat, and he was had split with his wife, but had a daughter, and at that time he wasn't seeing his daughter as much as what he wanted to, but the daughter didn't necessarily know all the reasons around it, and I talked to him about me growing up. So my folks split when I was 6, and I mentioned my old man, he passed away in 2015, but he probably wasn't there as much as what he probably should have been for me as a young fellow growing up, but and we made our peace years later anyway, but so we were coming from these angles. There's not always people that know everything. The kids don't always know.
Yeah.
So we wrote this song literally about kids asking the question, where were you when I went to school, and where were you when this all happened?
Okay. Yeah.
And there's a bridge that sort of talks about maybe I just didn't have the facts, because and I suppose in my role as a youth worker, I get to hear all sides of the stories.
Yeah.
And so but the kids are the ones. It's what their perception is the most important, because they think this.
Yeah.
So whether mum thinks that or dad thinks that, or mum's saying this or dad's saying, it doesn't matter. This is
that's what the kids saying.
Yeah. So that song came about, and it's like, oh wow, and it was we knew when we wrote it, but it sat for a while. I didn't write it with the intention to do anything massive with it, but. Anyway, this guy had started doing what he's doing, and some video stuff.
Still back in my hobby days.
Back in your hobby.
And shot a cracking clip.
Yeah, okay.
So we
It's a lot of fun.
We went back
Night
and
Out
forth.
Productions, everyone.
Night Out Productions, there it is.
I actually had to come up with a name after that.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
So, and we had, it was shot in Benalla, and we used a lot of local people, kids involved, families involved, and, it's a pretty sad kind of a clip, but it just made the song, that extra special. I think we, so yes, it was my sort of mini comeback, I suppose, and without, again, there's no intention. I wasn't like, I'm going to come back to get famous or anything like that. I'm coming back because I want to release music because I like it.
Yeah.
So did that, and had a little one day of being in iTunes in the top 10. I think we got to number 6 or something like that.
It's very exciting at the time.
It peaked at number 6 on the Australian iTunes country charts.
Absolutely.
That's pretty impressive, mate. So because that's so impressive, I want you to play me a little bit if you could.
Oh, jeepers.
Could you do that?
No.
Really? Too hard?
Hey, when you've written and played about a couple of hundred songs, you can't remember everything.
Can you remember it?
Well, if I don't, can you edit it out?
Yep. You can only try. I said you were going to get thrown under the bus.
I'm going to get to the chorus.
Yeah, you don't have to play it all.
I'll wreck it.
Just play bits.
I can't even remember the lyrics. Hang on. Oh, yeah, I'm going to cheat.
Go. You're allowed to cheat.
Yeah, hang on. There's a little bit of...
I've covered you. I've said you've written and played too many songs. You can't remember all of them.
I know. You're going to have to play a little background music while
Mate,
it's going...
Ben, why don't you pull out
You know
the
what?
bass?
I'll tell you what's embarrassing. If you asked me to play any song,
You'd forget.
I literally wouldn't be able to play anything.
Really?
I reckon after you've been playing for years, if you had a year or two off, it's not too bad. But when you go like 10, 15...
Where were you when I took my first steps? When those first words fell from my lips? When the nightmares came and I was scared as hell? Where were you on my first day of school? When I got in trouble for breaking rules? When I had my first kiss and you weren't there to tell? Maybe you were out there making memories with the family in a place you call home. Maybe you packed up and joined the circus, never-ending traveling show. I guess I'll never know. My team won the cup, when I crashed my bike and broke my arm, when I drank too much and got in my first fight. Where were you when I got my first car, when my first love, she broke my heart? Where were you on my graduation night? Maybe you were out there making memories in a family, in a place you call home. Maybe you packed up and joined the circus, never-ending traveling show. Guess I'll never know. Guess I'll never know. Guess I'll never know. I gave you the short version.
Nice one.
He makes it look so bloody easy.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to go home and throw my guitars in the bin.
That's classic.
Fantastic. So that went okay, that album, but the whole album, it peaked at number 9 on the iTunes country charts as well. So that was pretty impressive.
And so that one, I went back to, I guess, so apart from Where Were You In, all the other songs on there I'd written myself.
Yeah, okay.
Except for one other one, sorry. And then I also did a cover of a song called Signs, which was by the 5-man electrical band, which, by any means wasn't like... well, actually it was a huge hit in different parts of the world, and but, it wouldn't be the most obvious sort of cover, but it was just one of those songs that I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And did that. But I did 2 other singles with 2 other film clips, or actually 3 other singles with 2 other film clips that Ben also shot. We did Too Young to Know Better, And that was a pretty rocking song. Check it out on YouTube, everyone. And that featured Mitch, my eldest, in there.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I did watch that.
Yeah.
That's when he's in the car and putting the sunnies on the same as you were there. Yeah.
And he was up on stage rocking with the...
I saw that. That was pretty cool.
That was a big day. Ben was awesome because we actually shot that over a few different days because normally when you do a film, you just smash it out in one day. And just do it. But because
so
many people, it was
places.
loud, and so we shot all Mitch's bits, in separate stages. So it was awesome. So he was the little star. So he was playing like a mini me. So we had fun, and it was cracking clip with a cracking song, and that's. But I also, with that particular album, apart from recording a bunch of it at home myself, in my own little sort of studio / man cave. I utilised a studio in the States where literally I'd send them a demo of the sort of thing that I'm thinking of.
Yep.
And with a bunch of notes and some conversation, and they'd give me back. So they'd do on recording day, and then there's all this studio session musos who just would smash something out in 2 or 3 takes.
Yeah.
And so they'd either mix it all together for me or send me back the tracks for me to either mix or give to somebody else. So that was quite a different take on things for me. Again, just sort of wanting to explore different avenues.
Yeah.
So that was that, and then the next single was "You Say You Love Me," which was a big power ballad, which is probably, and no, I'm not singing it, but it's big, and it was one of those ones. Again, a beautifully shot clip, and it's one of those ones where it's not. When you think it's probably not really a country song, it's more of a singer-songwriter sort of song, and all of a sudden this, so I start quite low, and then it gets quite big in the vocal, and there's a big full-on, this big lead guitar break, and it's like a 4 or 4.5 minute song. So for country radio, I was like, when's this thing gonna finish? But it was this again. I didn't care. Like it was a song.
Your music
I
when
liked
you want
it. Yeah. And it connected with people. I called it the breakup song. You just play it to somebody if you want to break up with them. But and so it did certain things, in certain places as far as radio and things like that. But there was things that, again, I think there was a bit of curiosity when I started releasing songs again, because it had been about 5 years since I'd done anything significant in that scene. But there was never, it's like, oh, this is cool, I'm going to get back on the circuit and I'm going to start touring around. It was no, I'm a youth worker, and I'm a dad, and I'm a husband, and I'm just going to keep putting out some songs here and there.
And he could afford it because he was doing half his recording at home, and I was doing his film clips.
For nothing.
Mates, right.
Hey, it's a good team.
Great deal.
Yeah, awesome. So what are you doing now music-wise?
I'm doing covers again. I've got into a cover band, and I started one with a couple of guys from Shep, and it's been. We actually started talking about it ages ago, like last year, and tried to start rehearsing, but lockdowns and this and that. And
did you give our main man here a ring? To say, hey, you're interested?
I've been speaking to him for years.
That's a soft spot, that one. We've had a lot of conversations about this.
Yeah, there's been a lot of times, Ben, I want to do this. Are you going to do it? Are you going to? Yeah. And then later, I'm busy. I'm really busy. I actually
said yes a couple of times, and I was dead set. No, like I had itchy feet. I was going. And then it was like literally 3-4 weeks later, I was just way too busy to even think about it. And I'm like,
you lost your spot now, mate. If he gets famous now, you can't just jump on there.
I don't think I'll get too famous for playing covers around the Golden Valley, but
I did say one day when we're really old and grey, but I reckon he's gone grey before.
Hey.
We'd be doing some, beer gardens on a Sunday arvo, just doing some acoustic stuff because
that's pretty cool.
Who cares? Whatever,
a little bit of fun. Jesse's Girl or something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Smoke on the water.
You're never too old.
And that's so the proviso that I got back doing cover bands was playing songs that we all liked, and not. So it's the Selfish Man cover band basically. We probably should have called ourselves, but we called ourselves the Jaded Saints. So maybe it's the Jaded bit's probably a little bit about me. I don't know, but and of course we're all saints, but.
It's better than Bold Man
it's,
Chuck.
it's,
Yeah, true.
But it's a little 3-piece, and what it's doing for me, because I've spent that many years just strumming the guitar. My solo acoustic gigs, I'm just strumming the guitar, playing chords, and I've always considered myself a strummer, Johnny Strummer.
Yeah.
So, but this is making me practice and actually be the main guitarist in the band. I'm playing lead guitar again, and I always say I'm a hack, but I'm getting better at being a hack. So I've always said, like I mentioned at the start, I'm a singer before I'm a guitarist, but I'm enjoying getting to know the guitar again and getting to, I like the rocky stuff. So we are playing Led Zeppelin, and we are doing stuff to songs, and just, even if it's a light song, we make it rocky.
So you don't sing country when you...
There isn't a country song.
Really?
No.
Not even a Chris Stapleton or a Garth Brooks?
No, and look, Chris Stapleton's one of my all-time favourite artists, without a doubt, but no. But who knows what the future brings.
Really? Even Adele will cover Chris Stapleton.
Yeah.
And you don't...
Yeah.
Can't even give him that
I
courtesy.
do Chris Stapleton when it's just me and the acoustic. No, I won't do it today, but...
Chris Stapleton would be my favourite.
Yeah,
and Garth Brooks. Like, Garth Brooks, obviously a pioneer of the new age sort of country music.
Yes.
But Chris Stapleton, he's an absolute magician.
And I've always been a fan of people like him that do what they want. So he's never been a conformer. Like he does really traditional country songs, and the next one will be a full-on rocker.
Yeah,
Or
and then a
it'll be
bluegrass.
And then a bluegrass.
Yeah.
And I have the utmost respect for artists like that. Years ago, and still am, I was a fan of Ben Harper, who was the same thing. He would do like real light singer-songwriter stuff and then scream his head off.
Yeah.
And the next one with a massive distorted guitar.
Yeah, okay.
So there's a lot of artists that have influenced me, and I suppose influenced my I don't care type vibe, which didn't probably do well for me anyway. But yeah, so that's what we do. So we've been playing some gigs and just having some fun with it. It's a cover band at the end of the day, so we can't take things too seriously.
So it's more just now, just enjoy the music, have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
You gonna ride again?
Yeah. I have
got some stocked.
I have got some stuff. I've got some stuff from the first COVID lockdown, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I remember sending you some stuff, and he's got that look on his face. So I'm thinking he was listening to it. He was giving me feedback like it was really good.
I probably did at the time, mate. But I tell you what, I'm like a fish at the moment. I go around the fishbowl and I've forgotten what's happened. So,
but I do have my phone, and I always, when an idea comes in, I just sing into it. So every now and I listen to it. Geez, that's actually a pretty good one. When was that? It was 6 months ago. I must finish that one day. So I've got a lot of phone songs, and I've got a few of songs where I've done full demos for them.
Yeah.
What I do with them, I don't know.
Is this just going along the lines of what you like? It doesn't matter what the sound or genre is.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's it's blues. It's rocky, bluesy.
Yeah.
Chris Stapleton-ish sort of, those...
Sure, it's starting to come back to me now. There was a couple he sent to me, and I got excited.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, he's onto something."
Yeah.
I can't wait for this to happen.
He was supposed to come and play bass.
Too late,
You know what?
Too late. That train's gone,
That's
man.
all right, mate. I'll be doing the film. I'll be doing the film clip. Don't worry about that.
Opportunities are never lost. It is passed on to somebody else.
Have you written any songs for anyone else that have been a success as such?
Well, anything to do with I say there's a song on that last album that I've just done called Josephine.
Yeah.
So my wife's name's Jo. It's Joanne, not Josephine, but I call her Josephine sometimes. And that's a pretty rocky song. Like it's and so yes, that's about her. It wasn't a success. I did release it as a single, but it didn't do anything. Didn't do a film clip with it, Ben. So I think that was the issue.
We didn't want to upset his wife, because I'm scared of her too.
Because
I'm sure she's a very lovely lady.
She wasn't going to be in it, so we're talking about who.
She's lovely and beautiful, but you got to be scared of her.
We didn't want to get it we would have had to get somebody to play the part of her.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking. I'm not getting involved in that.
Okay.
Yeah, but as I say, look, that one, the first one I played, Sugar Lips, that's definitely about my wife, because it's actually it's tongue in cheek. That was before kids. I never wanted to have babies. I never wanted my own house. I never wanted to get married. Kind of lost to someone else, and then boom,
Got it all, mate.
Sugar Lips comes along.
Yeah.
So there was most of my songs, even Too Young to Know Better. I was, back in the day when I was a peanut, it was, trying to be a rock star here in Shepparton, where, you'd do a decent gig and it'd all go to your head, or somebody'd ask for an autograph at Macca's. Reality was, it was just a teenage peanut, so too young to know better. That was what that was all about. So, and sort of looking back on it as an old bloke now, who's a youth worker, I can look back at all these things and go, you were a bit of a peanut back in the day, mate. So. Not all the time.
That's too good.
Adam, you've been super generous with your time. I appreciate it. I've got 3 more things for you. Okay.
Righto.
The first one is I want you to play a Chris Stapleton song. Then I want to give you the opportunity to tell a funny story about Ben and your what are you called? Foreplays. So first, pick that guitar back up.
All right, I'm going to have to look at lyrics,
Stapleton.
though. I will have to look at lyrics.
Jeez, mate, he's not going to be able to play a gig next week. His voice will be gone.
What's your favourite Chris Stapleton song?
My favourite song is the one that I will not play it. It's called Love You Either Way, and I still love you either way. Anyway, but I won't do that because it's huge. But I like Broken Halos. Do you know Broken Halos? Yeah. So I'll give that a crack. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's one that I reckon I could probably pull off if I cheat and look at the words.
Yeah, you can cheat, man.
Would you like me to hold that for you?
No, I don't need that.
Right,
I probably need my glasses, though.
There you go.
Hang on. There we go. No, that won't work. This will do. I'll sing a bit of this.
Cool.
Jeez, I thought you were going to struggle to get one song out of him. You better have a crack at
Give
3.
him a guitar and a microphone and watch him go.
Yeah.
I literally could have sat here for 2 hours listening to the fantastic.
I'll give you heaps of room to play over there too.
Yeah.
See my share of broken halos, folded wings that used to fly. They've all gone wherever they go. Broken halos that used to shine. Broken halos that used to shine. Angels come down from the heavens just to help us on our way. They come to teach us, then they leave us, and they find some other soul to save. See my share of broken halos, folded wings that used to fly. They've all gone wherever they go. Broken halos that used to shine. Broken halos that used to shine. Broken halos used to shine.
I just refrain myself from trying to sing.
You're going to join in.
I'll embarrass myself by singing back up. That's unreal, man. So thank you very much for that. I love Chris Stapleton, so I don't think I've said that before, so it's he's pretty good.
He is.
That's
awesome.
fantastic.
Yep.
So, all right, couple more.
Yep.
What's a funny story about you and Ben back in your days? You can join in on this one, Ben, too.
He at least started laughing. Oh, he's got something.
We used to do a few songs that Ben actually used to sing.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yes.
Full.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. We used to...
Even I'd forgot about that.
Ben used to do a very mean version of Funky Cold Medina.
Really? Can we do that?
And
Come on.
and,
I can't remember no words,
and
mate.
Fight for your right to party.
Oh,
A little bit of you got to fight for your right to
Hey,
party.
that used to go off. I couldn't sing to save my life, but
You wake up in the morning and you don't want to go.
with a bit of help from everyone else.
Yeah. I've got a few. So there was a Battle of the Bands, Civic Centre, I think it was. One of our first gigs, and it was a Battle of the Bands. Ben's playing bass for a bunch of the song or songs or whatever. Realises he hadn't actually turned his amp on.
Oh, what an idiot!
You can't remember that.
I don't. I thought I was pretty cool, didn't I?
It's not like you're at a pub where you're halfway through or something. This is battle of the bands. You
Mate,
only get one or
Heaps of
two
people, heaps
songs.
of people.
We could do stories for hours, I
Yeah.
can tell you now. I remember back some of the gigs that we played up, and I'm going to be polite here, New South Wales, with it pubs and footy clubs and that. We thought, like, when you've seen the movie Roadhouse with the chicken wire,
What
no
about
shit.
somewhere? Let's just call it Cobram, where we did a mock wedding. So it was a footy club, right? Footy club do, and it was a mock wedding, and so where the guys were dressed up as girls. So it was, and they'll get them on stage and dancing with them. It was got a bit scary. And then we went back there a few months later, and for the same footy club, and we were packing up, and the guys just wanted to. It was me actually. They wanted to bash, but there was a few. I was scared for my life.
Really?
Oh, we did a thing in Finley at a pub.
Oh, Finley, yeah, right.
And the guitarist had been hanging around with some chick, and we had no idea until after we'd been given rooms at the back of this joint. So the band and we had a couple of mates that used to come along, do the roadie. Well, they called themselves roadie, but that's just an excuse to come along, drink piss, and join in. And we go back to this room, right? And then the pub finishes up and everyone leaves. We're looking out the curtains and there's blokes punching on in the street on top of cars. Like, this is just normal night in Finley on a Saturday night. And then all of a sudden we hear all this carrying on, and then they've come over to the rooms. There was 5 of us holding the door on this room while they were trying to get in there to kill us, because they thought that we'd taken one of their girls. Like, we're talking like, we're back in the caveman days. And then we turn around anyway, the guitarist is missing. We're like, oh, fuck, he's dead. Because there's about 30 blokes out there. And then anyway, they eventually gave up and left because they couldn't get in and whatnot. And we sort of stuck our head out and went, oh, okay, there's no one around, and walked down past these other rooms, and here's the door open, and the guitarist has just like walked out of nowhere and gone, what's going on, boys? It's like he'd stumbled back into the wrong room and just gone to sleep on a bed with the door open. They didn't even find him. Mate, there's been a few times that I've been worried that we were going to get killed. No. That was one of them.
So Ben used to, he had a bit of a, there's lots of stories like that, but Ben used to, his main thing was the rubberneck. So
it's a bass thing.
This is how, he'd have his bass hanging around like this. It was almost like a necklace. He'd have his bass that high that it was around his neck like this. And he'd have a 6-string bass. I swear he only played 1 or 2 strings maximum.
Played 3, I think.
So I got this bass. It cost me $17,000 or some ridiculous amount of money, and all you.
It's too good.
So he's playing like this the whole time.
Rubberneck.
Johnny Rubberneck. That's what he was.
Oh, fantastic!
That was his thing. Oh, what about the plaits though, Ben? What about the plaits?
Oh, we can stop
So
now.
Ben used to have his hair in like little tiny plaits, like a Jamaican.
Really?
Mate, I've tried every hairstyle there is. I'm surprised I still got hair after the amount of shit I did with it.
This is pretty cool how the dirt comes up on you. This is great.
Yeah, there's lots.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
No
Adam,
dirt on me,
again,
though.
we've been you've been very generous with your
getting in
time.
trouble anyway.
You've been very generous with your time. We always finish the podcast off with a couple of questions.
Yep.
So, first question, what was your first car?
It was Camry.
Toyota Camry.
Camira wagon.
Yeah, I remember it well.
Yeah. Did you ever name it?
I remember it.
Did it have a name?
Because Ben used to always have to try to fix it every time it broke down.
Did it have a name?
No, I didn't. But my dad bought it for $2,000 and sold it to me for $2,000.
Good work. 10 years later.
Yeah.
Nice. What's your favourite food?
My wife's lasagna. Absolutely.
Lasagna comes up a fair bit,
Yeah.
actually. All right, last one. 3 people if you can invite to dinner, dead or alive, any era, to have your wife's lasagna.
Yes.
Who would those 3 people be?
The old man. It'd be great to catch up.
Yeah.
Have a chat.
Yeah.
I reckon somebody like Jimi Hendrix would be kind of cool.
Yeah,
wouldn't
okay,
it? Just
yeah.
to tap into the brain of young Jimmy. Dead or alive? You did say dead or alive.
Yeah.
didn't you?
Anyone.
No, I'd have to put my wife in.
No, you're not.
Just in case she listens to this.
It's all right. Josephine, just let him pick
Don't
someone
have to
else.
have the wife?
No, you don't have to.
Oh.
Go one more.
Oh.
Your
She'll
wife's
fi- she'll
cooking.
forgive you.
She's going to
She
be
is
there
cooking.
anyway.
She's going to be there.
Yeah, she'll just have to listen from the kitchen. So, okay.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. You know who I like? I like Leonardo DiCaprio. Is that his?
Really?
Yeah, he's my favourite actor. I reckon he'd be a hoot.
This is who I thought you'd say.
Oh, look out.
Oh, James Morrison.
Remember we used to do... no, that's... do you think Jim Morrison?
No, it must be Jim, yeah. Off the doors.
He's an awesome singer, by the way, James Morrison. Yeah, he's great. Jim Morrison. Remember we used to do Roadhouse Blues?
Yeah.
Yeah. But he would have... Look, from what I understand about him, I wouldn't have been able to tap into his brain. He was a pretty full-on dude, yeah.
Yeah.
That's who I thought you would
You'd have to get
said.
on the mushies or something to understand him.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Speaking of drugs, I'm going to tell you a funny story.
Does it
Oh my
involve me?
God,
No.
this is a family-friendly show.
No. This is funny though. We did one of the things that I remember the most, being a young fella in a band, was we were the support. We were the support band for Chocolate Starfish at the GV, mate. That was like, I thought that was when
made it.
That's when I thought I'd made it.
You had made it then.
I knew shit after that, but
Yeah.
anyway. But we turn up and obviously they've got their own stage show and whatnot, but then you've got to have people to run it. But you can't run it because it's theirs. So you got thrown in the deep end. You literally had to pay them to do it. And we're like, fuck, we didn't work this out. Anyway, so then we talked to the light guy, and the light guy's like, yeah, man, I'll do it for a mix.
So we had some connections.
So for the next hour, it was like, talk to this bloke, talk to that bloke. Someone had to run around town try and find a mix for this bloke so he'd do lights for us.
We didn't know how good the lights were, but they're probably better for Chocolate Starfish. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
They're probably worse for Chocolate Starfish.
just funny.
He's off his head
Yeah,
by
some of
then.
the funny things are going.
Yeah.
Gold.
And it's actually a spin on from that is in all these years later, over the last probably 5 or 6 years, I've actually reconnected with Adam Thompson from Chocolate Starfish, and he's very heavily involved in youth programs himself, and runs his own programs. So I've been a part of those, but I've also I've done some gigs with him. So as a guitarist, his guitarist. So some different private events. So but we've had some good chats and he's one of those people who just has a lot of insight.
Yeah.
And it's great to see them, like they're doing things like Red Hot Summer Tour and all that sort of stuff. And so, yes, because I've told him the story. He can't remember about us supporting him at the GB.
No,
I don't know why.
Don't know why he wouldn't remember that. Wonder if he still knows his light guy.
But yeah, so it's there's been a few people over the bunch of years I've been able to chat to and connect with, and again, they're just normal people.
Yeah,
you know?
just humble,
right.
just normal people.
Yeah, most of them are humble. Yeah.
Most of them are normal other than you, Ben, but everyone else is normal. So that's fantastic. Adam, we really appreciate you coming on Two Blokes from Down Under. You got an amazing story. Some of the things you've done is unreal. You're a winner in my eyes, mate. So thank you very much. We much appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
No
I
worries.
don't know how you're going to edit this into 20 minutes. I swear it's going to...
It's all staying.
So
Very good.
there you go, guys. Another episode of Two Blokes from Down Under. Can't wait for the next one. See you later.
2021. Gotta show him I can still rap though. Now I'm in the game, I was on the bench. First I was renting, now I'm collecting rent. First it with the Beamer, now I want the Benz. Spending all the bag like, yeah, I go